Hello, welcome. Good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. What it do, Rod? Good morning. Good morning. All right, we're gonna get into the news in a little bit, but before we get started, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and the bell button. The one-on-ones are open, so very important that y'all get yourselves signed up. It's for a limited time, and you can click the description down below to get more information. That said, let's go ahead and get it cracking. So we got some news that's coming out today. That is our PPI. And that PPI data is probably going to be one of the trickier PPIs because this one is going to tell us a lot of what is going on from the manufacturer perspective. So you already know we have CPI, which is how much money everybody is spending over on that side. And then PPI is supposed to give us an outline of what is happening before it gets to that stage. So we're gonna find some very interesting stuff that's gonna happen in this one. So we're gonna probably dissect that. That releases at 8:30, and we'll try to see what our best case use of this information. Also, there's oil inventory that's going to be around 10:30, so keep that in mind with a bill auction here. Fed Beige book at 2 o'clock. It's a kind of like a nothing burger, but like I said, there's some things that has these yellow folders. There's times where it does absolutely nothing, and there are times that thing just does some craziness in the market. So just keep that in mind, so that way you are completely and utterly aware of what's happening in the market. You have small profits, maybe you want to get out by 1:30, 1 o'clock. All right, so let's go ahead and keep this going. We have Wells Fargo raises AMD price target ahead of earnings. Sees a lot of gain in that stock, which is going to be interesting. I know I'm kind of skipping around, but I want to get to the news ASAP. But that is very interesting. Let's take these drawings off. 20% increase, huh? You sure it's not the 20% that it just gained right here? What was that? 10% is on 14, so probably about right here. So like I tell y'all, always sell the news because this thing has made a nice little major move. I would love for this to continue, but we just put in this golden cross, and there's going to be some profit taking. There's got to be. Let's see. Did we get this gap here? Yep, I think we did. Let me put a line here so that way we can all see if it did. Just barely. So we're probably going to get one more oomph right into here. If not, a nice little retest, and then we'll come back for it, whatever the case may be. But AMD, 20% rise. That's what Wells Fargo. Listen, if you ever bank with Wells Fargo, you might find it questionable, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But again, this is investor trade ideas, so we'll see how that goes. The next one we're going to go ahead and look at. There's wrong screen back here. There is a few stocks that they have here. We're going to just kind of see what they're saying. 3 stocks that was provided: Danaher, Progressive, and Alphabet. So let's see what these 3 are doing. Danaher, I've heard that name before. What is it that they do there again? Let's go ahead and take a peek of what is there. They are engaged in manufacturing and marketing professional medical. Engaged in the design, manufacture, and marketing of professional, medical, industrial, and commercial products and services. It operates through the following segments: biotechnology, life sciences, and diagnostic. This is probably up. Yep. Probably that's why it's such a blur for me. They're in the DNA and RNA side. If you recognize the letters RNA, there's one that has an M in front of it while it puts in the RNA, which is Moderna. So I think this is probably why this is such a reminder, is because I haven't seen it since around the pandemic days, but they are anticipating a nice little look at this stock. So let's look at this in its totality. We're going to do some top-down analysis. What is going on with Danaher? All right, so Danaher, you look like an M pattern. I don't know. You look a little rough around the edges. I don't know if I want to take it too seriously, but assuming that they are right and we're going to hold here, I would love for it to get back above this 50 moving average on the monthly, probably about this level. That would be great. So above 216, I'll be bullish, but I will be very bullish, which is probably in my radar as soon as it breaks this 171. If it does, that 171 would then break around here. Oh, it's the same 171. That's our bounce. Maybe that's why they're curious. So if it breaks that 171, we're probably going to end up being all the way over here to about 158. So nice little reload would be probably here, unless they got some stuff in their pipeline. They do return money to shareholders, and they have a $5 billion revenue, and their earnings is on the 22nd. So this is going to be very interesting. So keep that in mind. They're in the biotech field. So if you like tech, biotech can't go wrong either. All right, let's keep this going. Another one they have is Progressive. We're going to skip over that because, well, not saying I have anything wrong with Progressive, but Progressive is an insurance company, and I don't really care too much for insurances for the most part, but you can kind of see nice little uptrend here, nice little retracement, maybe because it's coming close to this order block that's right here from the month, what's that, January? And July. So around here, it's probably going to give us a nice little bounce here, but you can kind of see it needs to kind of cool down this side. And then the last one is your fave, Alphabet, Goog. Goog is a really, really strong company, so there is no way this thing is going to relatively go down. I think they are coming for this area here, and that's probably what they're aiming for, trying to get to that 188 and filling that fair value gap that they put in the middle of February. It's one of the lagging ones that out of all of them that did not make that move. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of these. Boom, boom, boom. If you want to get a CNBC account, I do suggest you do so. There's a lot of good information that comes out of there. Be completely objective, folks. Do not just go ahead and be like, oh, why they set this? No, you take it with a grain of salt. Earnings today, we got Goldman Sachs. They released their earnings this morning. Their earnings made them pop up $7. All right, nice and solid. Let's see what this looks like on the daily. Okay, so it kind of looks like this. Let me grab our live stream so that way we can go ahead and see it in totality. It looked like it was about to go into that gap. They didn't let it get to that gap, so it's still possible. They found a good amount of money. Oh, this is really good for a company. That's what you want to see, is where they're giving you $10 per share. They must have a low share float. Yeah, that's why. Look at this, 707. Might look at, you know what? I've been trying to make a new watch list. I want to make a watch list for investors, and I want to do something for y'all and create a list. And call it, I want to call it investor relations. Goated. I like the word goated. Goated investor relations. I'm working with a technique on finding some of these very, very interesting companies and finding good opportunities on when you want to make those purchases. Relations. All right, we'll do that. And I want something like, you know what? I think it's perfect. Where are you? You got to have a seed somewhere. Nah, you're a bug. I want something like a seed. Yeah, fruits. That's a potato, but I could play that off as a seed. All right. Would you consider this a seed? Looks like a seed. We'll roll with it. Looks like I see it. Let's go with Goldman Sachs. Can't go wrong with banks. And this one will be one of them I probably would be putting in that investor relations side. First quarter. Because, again, when you have a strong backing like a Goldman Sachs, especially from a name standpoint, there's no Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns, so they kind of hold that mantle. And JP Morgan can be a little volatile based on their shares. $708, not an easy swing, but in the day and age of the fact that we have where you can do fractional shares, I'm gonna give y'all something. I'm gonna give y'all something fun and maybe even make like an alert system or something. We'll see how that goes. But Goldman Sachs, nice little bull flag look right here. We're gonna get a nice little pop here and get some continuation. So I do like where they are, and I do like their earnings, and I do think it's probably gonna rise a little bit into their dividends. Their dividends is given out, let's see, May 30th. So if we had 3 months to May, that'll be August 30th. So somewhere around August, we're gonna get a nice little reprieve as they pay dividends. A little after they pay dividends, it finds a base and then continues. I know the dividends is not a lot, but dividends is dividends. So keep an eye on Goldman Sachs. All right, what else we got? We got COA did their earnings today. Now they had a massive fall off towards the end of yesterday. I saw this coming in, and I was very curious on why. They have their earnings tonight, so I think we're probably going to get some more smoke out of this earnings. Probably another pullback. Probably come back to a block. Maybe come back to like $28 even. I think we stop at 28.49, maybe even 27, and then it probably bounce for the earnings. Just keep that in mind. If they actually return money to shareholders very solidly, because that's what they do. They did miss in revenue, so if they actually made their revenue, that'd be great. I know their guidance was a little bit lower, but if you look at it, it looks like it's priced in, but we'll see how that's done. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Don't really do a lot of airlines, but like I said, when I do United. As far as charting, I really don't fly United. I don't even know where they go sometimes. Anyways, moving on. So we got 3.8 billion, 15.3 billion revenue, 3.8 on EPS is what they're looking for, coming from a 91, very light, and then they were missing a little bit on the revenue. So if they make these two, I would not be surprised if they start to go after some targets towards the end of the year. So look for 108, 116 before the next quarter actually gets there, depending on how the momentum is. We're probably going to continue very fast up into that area. This looks like a W. Do y'all see that? Kind of looks like a W, right? I try to like keep up with some of the patterns. If you can't see the W, let me know. But it kind of looks like we did this, kind of very shallow here. Wouldn't that be a W? What do y'all think? Go ahead and put it in the comment if you think this is a W. I also see an inverse head and shoulder. That way I can help y'all train your eyes, because the more you see it, the easier it is. That's the head. This would be another shoulder, but then they came back down into here. I almost wanted to do this as the shoulder here, but that positioning is not super great because it'll be kind of like an angled one, which is very possible, but I like this one for that. And then they kind of bounced it one more time to kind of accumulate. And do y'all see the inverse head and shoulder? Might be one that you want to look at. You know what? They don't pay dividends. I was gonna say I would put it on investor relations, but they don't pay dividends. All right. So for tomorrow, so that way you can watch out for earnings. We got Pepsi. Pepsi is going to try to do its thing. Nice little move here in their term earnings. They're looking for 2.02 on that EPS. $22 billion company. Large growth on both ends here. If you don't know much about PepsiCo, they don't do only soda. They have a lot of stuff. They got Quaker Foods. They got some stuff in Latin America. So if you ever had some oatmeal, it probably came from there. They're the creators of Sierra Mist, of course. What else they have? I thought they had snacks too. Or is that Coca-Cola? It might be snacks. It's Coca-Cola. Rice-A-Roni. I did not know that. Oh, they even got cereal and pancakes. Oh, they kind of in a little bit more than I even thought. Of course, you already know they had Gatorade for like the longest, hence the reason why Powerade was always there. So very, very interesting ticker in itself. So do not look at it just like a beverage company. It does way much more. I would love to see it kind of fill this imbalance here. We're probably going to get into that 140 with a solid earnings return. If it doesn't, we're probably going to go ahead and fall and retest that 127. Abbott. Abbott Labs. Now this one is a very tricky one. I really thought that after, especially around the pandemic, I thought this thing was going to be like some massive beast and it's going to go completely bonkers. But gotta show my age with the word bonkers. But anyways, Abbott has been kind of a laggard in that healthcare space. Of course, you already know what's going on with Eli Lilly. You already know what's going on with your favorite tickers like your Johnson and Johnsons. For those, I don't think Abbott had any lawsuits. That's another thing. But yeah, it's just a very weird ticker. I played it a couple times. Their option contracts kind of suck. So this could be good for investor relations. Let me see what their share float is. Maybe that's the reason. Their share float is like 1.7 billion, and that's not going to move the needle much. So it's a lot more stable. So not a lot of growth that you're going to squeeze out of that. So very, very interesting ticker. I want to see what their earnings looks like because they are coming off of 1.09 and they're aiming for 1.2. And they're looking for 11 billion in revenue. So they missed last time on the revenue side. Let's see if they can actually hold it. And the one that everybody can't wait for it to happen, and is the main attraction to the earnings cycle in itself, is what do we do with this $1,000 Netflix? I am predicting, I may be completely wrong, but if I'm right, just remember you heard it here at BYTTT first. I'm anticipating a split, right? Because again, I'm not saying I can't go ahead and invest into $1,000 stock, but even if I wanted to, I wouldn't want to, right? Because it's very, very pricey and that's a lot of capital you got to outlay. So you're not going to get new investors, but you're going to insulate previous investors. So that's going to make things very fun across the board. So it is anticipating an EPS of 6.6 here and a revenue here, and they smash both. And they're guided by a lot more here. So the funny thing, if you don't know what happened here back in, I want to say 22 to 23, there was a lot of questions on are they going to be able to increase their revenue, but they already knew they had a gambit in their back pocket. Well, if we start locking down these password sharings, we should be able to knock it out. So what did they do? Added some new pricing tiers, split some things, raised some prices along the way too, and then they slapped it with one Molotov cocktail. You cannot share your password unless you sign up for the family plan, which is just a few more bucks more. So they're squeezing more money out of their people that are big supporters of Netflix, but this is also part of the streaming wars right now. And I think Netflix will always be on top of that, and companies just going to have to realize people are going to stop buying a lot of these streamings, and Netflix is probably going to have a mainstay because of some loyalists. So just keep that in mind. I like Netflix here. I like the fact that they made another push to the upside. I really thought after it got to like 12.75, it was just going to go ahead and pull back. If you've seen some of my videos in my channel, I have explained Netflix, and we anticipated that extra pop, and it was a great win for everybody. So just keep that in mind. Enjoy this ticker because it is a great one. All right, so let's go ahead and keep this going. We got quite a bit here on our earnings cycle, but let's go ahead and look at a few of them that stands out. DHI is one of them. Very, very good company, but like I told y'all before in some of my shows, this is one that is like the Metro PCS of its industry, which is not a bad thing. It's just not your higher quality in itself. And I think that run is finally over. I think they ran it up before earnings got here to kind of get some of their investors insulated. And we're going to see what happens with this earnings because they did miss last time, not by much. And they are anticipating to make more. I would love for them to make it. So I think some people are getting out of the position in case there's a surprise. So if there is a surprise, we're probably going to go ahead and give a nice little push on that side. So look out for the morning of July 22nd for a solid earnings news on DHI. Actually, going to add you to investor relations. Oh, actually, I just remembered. Gotta do it this way. I'll put that in investor relations. All right, another one. It is Schwab. Schwab, after they acquired your Thinkorswim right here from TD Ameritrade. Look at this, kind of stagnant. They needed to do some type of acquisition. The market is trying to dissect what do we do with this information. So I think that's why we're here. I think they are a sound company. I think this is a good position for them. They do have a lot of shares floated, so that's the reason why you probably could be a little apprehensive. But this is one I like their moves. It's very lateral as far as the move, because I see JPM, they started putting in some type of trading profile. Instead of Charles Schwab putting in a trading profile and then opening to the banking side, because again, they're going to go deeper into the banking, they decided to acquire one with a better, more robust way of trading. And then that's going to be the game, because companies like my baby SoFi, and I've told y'all this before, is putting some pressures on banks to be able to do both, where you're a bank and I can invest in the same spot. There is some controversy on the fact of banks being both, and I understand the reservations, but we're in a world of one-stop shops. Hence the reason why people order Uber Eats. All right, and the last one we're going to go ahead and go over is a nice little recap. We talked about this before, Eli Lilly, and I'm curious on what they're going to do here. Their earnings is coming up on August, but look at this here. It's almost like they're trying to build this base, but every time, let me just do it like this. Put this here, double click, and put the coordinates at 800. Every time it gets to that 800 level, there's a behemoth of sellers. When it was at that 972, they sold it right back to that 800, found a solid base just under 800, and then they pushed right back. Got there again. Where did they struggle with? The 800s. Here's our 800 level again. That area turned from resistance to support and vice versa multiple times, and that is where I'm very curious about. I would be bullish anything above that 800 level, maybe come and fill some of these gaps, and I think that's what they try to do here. But woo, that thing hit a Molotov cocktail of a wall and is burning people's portfolios right now, and it's pulling it back. Oh, actually, we got to get to the news. This thing is like, it took a little bit longer than expected. Let's get back to the news. All right, PPI is coming out in 45 seconds. Got to get that party going. And then I'll finish up the recap on Eli Lilly. All right, this thing is just drifting up. I think, is this the little bit of a smoke and mirrors, letting us know that there's more upside coming? I don't like to play these events, so I might, let's go MNQ. I don't mind throwing $1 around. Let's see how this is going to work out. We got ourselves 1 second. Here it is. All right, nice little drop off. Let me pull up the NQ for y'all, and then we pop right back up at the same time. Come on, NQ. Get there now. Get there. All right, and let's come to a 15-minute. So we had a nice little drop off, and then here's our pop. We got a little bit of a kick here. They try to take out this imbalance. Are they going to go ahead and short this thing? Hit one of my alerts. Let me know that they are trying to push this thing. Where's my indicator? Oh, it must have been a different one. All right, I think we're going to get a bounce right here. tried have some fun with y'all. So I do a quick little scalp with y'all. They're trying to push it right back into that 23026 because again, when you get these kicks, these things act like magnets, and it could be a magnet to repel and prices continues to go up, or it just goes and tries to continue to make this dump to the downside. So let's see. All right, they're trying to toy with it a little bit. Come on. Oh, you are gonna make it fall. I'm gonna risk like 30 bucks. I can't see my screen on the trade because I got NQ here, but I'm in micros right now. But I'm anticipating another pop somewhere above. You know, let me switch this up so I can see my screen. Something like that. I was down like 30 bucks, but it's trying to make a nice little pop. I think we're gonna get some more momentum, and then we'll probably pry into here. But my real target is to try to get up inside of here. That would be great. Come on. Come on. Alright. I got like $60 that popped in. Ooh, it did pop in. And I was just about to put that stop loss on the screen. Ooh, come on. Hold your water. Still have a stop of like $30. Come on. Ah, that was going to be fun. Alright, then we take my $30. Ah, right when I was going to put it in there. Now, again, I was trying to aim for the rest of this gap, but I knew this was going to be tricky because there was pressure here, and they're not letting that go. So instead of me fighting with the chop, that's kind of how I like to take some of my trades, but it's all good. We'll just keep that party going. Let's get back to what we were doing. We were talking about Eli Lilly. So yeah, so every single time, come back to here, every single time it gets to around that $800 mark, what does it do? It has some type of sale. This one was probably the most egregious. They kidnapped a lot of people here. I could, ooh, what an engulfing. I'm anticipating another momentum to the downside because this is going to scare more recent buyers unless they really just have conviction for it. But this is telling me that they're looking for a level. I don't think we're going to get to 600 again because we haven't been there since April. But again, they have a lot of competition that's going to happen. So it's going to be very interesting on how this all pans out. All right. So before I get out of here, I'm going to leave y'all with a whole lot. Let's first go ahead and start with NQ. Am I in the right spot? Okay, I am in the right spot. So you already know NQ when it's all said and done. It is trying to make its all-time highs again and again and again. The problem that I have with NQ trying to make its all-time highs over and over is the fact that right around here, we went ahead and made a nice little hammer doji. And this thing can turn into a red candle by the end of the day, giving us an evening star and continuing to the downside. It just depends. Can the bulls liquidate the rest of the bears on this upside? We got bears divergences everywhere, so it's a very strong possibility there's some bearish momentum up in this area that's waiting for them. Over here is oil. Like I said, tomorrow's oil inventory is going to have, actually, I'll take that back. not tomorrow's oil inventory. What am I talking about? It is actually, let me make sure I remind. Yeah, today's oil inventory. I'm still stuck on yesterday. That's what happens when you skip around sleep. Tomorrow's oil inventory is gone. Today's oil inventory. Gotta hit that rewind. Today's oil inventory is coming out at 10:30. So we're gonna go ahead and see what is going to happen with that oil inventory. If it's gonna go ahead and predicate. And Q, you're a jerk. I actually did what I was looking for. So is it going to make it drop a little bit lower, which I think is a possibility as they reject the rest of this fair value gap here, or do we just get a nice little pop back up into that upside? So very curious on what oil inventory does and how much information is dissected, and does it lead to some lower prices. Here is gold. I've always told y'all to kind of just keep an eye on gold. Right now we're getting a nice little pop, which is going to give that pop to the market. And then silver is doing this, and nice little retracement. They really try to push up into there. Actually, let me expand this a little further. Kind of something like that. I would love to see silver get above 38.41. Can it get there? That would be great. If it doesn't, we might get a little bit of a timber, and it's going to drag gold down with it. That's probably the only weakness I've seen in silver in a little bit after they made this explosive move to the top side. Even this, I don't find it questionable. I always think that there's major pullbacks after major pushes. Let's go ahead and get into the British pound. British pound is trying to pop up, but again, it's been on this decline, so this is going to make things very interesting. But you want the British pound to keep on pushing up, so that way it can put pressure on the dollar, make the dollar bearish, and that makes the market drop. Kind of like levers. It's all levers here. After hitting that $123,000, Bitcoin is in the middle of a pullback, and today they're trying to recapture that area. So a nice low pop here, which it looks like anything above 117. And I was having a one-on-one class with one of my clients, and we kind of like did his whole lesson around Bitcoin, just so you can understand the dynamics of it, that a chart is a chart. And I was explaining to him that, you know, based on these parameters, especially with this order block sitting here, they could be using this fair value gap. It would have been great if it came to the fair value gap, then popped, but there's a strong possibility they only came for here. Anything under 120,000 psychological level can put some pressure for this to come down. So we're going to go ahead and keep that in mind for Bitcoin. You got the Russell. Russell looks like this. They're trying to make a nice little push. Looks a little bit better than how NQ looks. But again, I told y'all this and gave y'all a warning. Sometimes they'll pull money out of the large caps just to throw it into the small caps just to park it. Always chart yourself the Russell just in case. And here is the infamous dollar. Now, I was looking for it to stop here and then hit the brakes. And you can see we're inside of here. Hence the reason why we dropped so violently. Chart the dollar. Chart your VIX if you don't like the dollar. That's another way of knowing. But when they start to make these rises, it's time for you to understand that they're doing something, letting know the market is coming down. So more dollar value increases the volatility to that downside for your tickers. All right. So that said, I want to say thank you very much for participating with me on today's BYTTT. Now, I understand that y'all probably don't understand some of this information. Like I said, I have down below my one-on-ones, and I'm also bringing back my Get Funded program. So look out for that. It's a 5-day program where I break down everything in its totality on getting yourself a funded account. And most of the people that does that program, not only do they get their account funded, they work in their discipline, leading to quicker and earlier payouts. All right, so go ahead and click the link down below. If you want your charts done, just go ahead and make your purchase. The description is down below as well. And I want to say thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and send it to your friends and family by sharing. That way they know I'm always dropping gems every single day, and they could go ahead and make some money. That said, I bid you a fond farewell and see y'all tomorrow.